Alex wakes up in the wreckage of a world that forgot how to be gentle. She's alone, bandaged and confused, and the first thing you notice is that she's not the tough, know-it-all survivor trope. She's raw, tired, and carrying a loneliness that's almost a character in itself. From that shaky, breathless opening, the movie follows her like a loose camera, not always flattering, sometimes unforgiving, but always curious. We meet her in the aftermath. Streets are empty, buildings are half-eaten by weather, and whatever civilization used to be here is now a rumor. Alex scavenges for food and anything that isn't already gone. She nurses small wounds, debates whether it's worth trusting a strange car, and argues silently with the past she can't fully remember. The film makes sure you feel the world is quiet. It is not loud with action, it's loud with absence. Pretty soon Alex runs into other people, which is both a relief and the beginning of trouble. There's Thomas, a practical man with scar tissue and a soft voice who's more careful than charismatic, and there's Raphael, who's louder and quicker to assume the worst. These aren't movie villains. They're people made sharp by scarcity. The trio form a fragile, pragmatic alliance. You watch them trade tools, ration cigarettes, and exchange stories until silence becomes the default language again. It is the kind of survival dynamic where trust is currency and everyone's trying to check the exchange rate. The film spends its time on small moments that reveal who these people are. Alex keeps finding tokens from a life she can't place. A child's drawing, a ring, a name scratched into a doorframe. Each relic is a sting and a hook. The audience wants to know what she lost and why those things matter so much when everything else has been stripped away. There's a scene where she sits by a burnt-out house and talks to a photograph like it's a stubborn dog. That quiet, oddly tender moment anchors the whole middle of the movie better than any big action set piece could. Conflict comes not as blockbuster spectacle but as a sequence of tense, human skirmishes. The group encounters other survivors who are more desperate than malevolent. People who will steal if it keeps their kids alive, folks who've made violence a first answer. Their S1 encounter on a roadside where Alex's group is forced to make a split-second call. And it's brutal because everyone's choices are morally grey. The movie doesn't spoon-feed you a villain. Instead, it shows how fear and hunger carve up basic decency into something brittle. Alex herself evolves through these trials. She begins as someone who reacts, run, hide, patch up, and gradually becomes someone who chooses. That shift is quiet but convincing. She starts taking inventory of what matters beyond immediate survival. In a memorable scene, she helps a wounded stranger despite the risk, because some part of her refuses to let the world win by turning everyone inward. It is one of those moments where the film trusts you to feel the cost. She helps, there are consequences, and you understand that kindness here isn't sentimental, it's strategic and costly. There are also glimpses into Alex's past that the narrative teases out like a drip. Flashbacks, or memories, come in fragments. A laugh over a kitchen table, a hallway with different light, someone calling her by a name that lands like a lost key. The structure plays with memory in a way that keeps things human. You don't get exposition dumps. You get half-remembered conversations, details that matter mostly to her. Those fragments give the movie its emotional center. You realize she's not just surviving the environment. She's piecing herself back from the scraps of who she used to be, and that process is the film's heartbeat. Tension builds toward encounters that test the group's cohesion. Supplies dwindle, tempers fray, and secrets, because of course there are secrets, come out at the worst possible times. The film handles these reveals without melodrama. A lie about where someone's family went, a confession about something done in desperation. Each reveal rewires the group dynamics, and what was a shaky truce becomes a real moral reckoning. The performances sell it because nobody plays for grand speeches. They let tiny gestures, averted eyes, a hand that lingers on a rifle, carry the weight. There's also a persistent threat beyond other survivors, the land itself. Weather, hunger, and plain chance are antagonists here. The movie stages a sequence where a sudden sandstorm isolates Alex and Thomas, forcing them to rely on each other in a way that's almost intimate. In that forced closeness, you see how survival can accelerate trust and grief alike. The storm becomes a crucible. People are revealed more than they re-changed, and the film uses that to deepen the emotional stakes without changing its tone. As the plot pushes forward, Alex uncovers a plotline about a safe place, a rumored community that has electricity and clean water, the sort of myth that keeps people moving. It becomes the carrot at the end of the map. The hunt for that community drives much of the film's last act. They meet a man who claims to know the way, and you can feel the hope and the danger vibrating in the same room. This is where the movie puts faith and pragmatism into conflict. Is it worth risking everything on a rumor of safety? The film answers in a way that's not neat. There are gains and losses, and either outcome would feel earned. You'll also notice the movie doesn't forget the small human rituals. People sing off-key around a tiny fire, and attempted humor breaks a bitter silence. Someone reprimands another for hoarding sugar like a parent scolding a teenager. Those moments are the salt that keeps the film from feeling like a checklist of hardships. They make you care about the characters as people, not just as archetypes. Toward the end, things tighten into a series of choices that define who Alex is now, as opposed to who she might have been. There's sacrifice that feels honest rather than manufactured. Someone steps up in a way that costs them dearly, and the ripple effects are quiet but steady. The film's climax isn't a big chase or a huge shootout. It's a moral moment where the characters must decide what kind of community they want to build out of the ruins, and whether it's possible at all. That kind of climax respects the film's earlier commitment to small, intimate stakes. The ending is thoughtful and a little bittersweet. The film doesn't tie everything up, and good. It respects the truth that in a world like this, some questions just stay open. Alex walks away with a new version of herself, scarred, more deliberate, and carrying the honest weight of loss. There's a shot of her looking at an empty horizon that could be hopeful or merely contemplative. Either way, it lingers, and you feel like you've earned the pause. Throughout, the movie balances bleakness with a stubbornness that feels very human. It's not trying to shock you with gore or to dazzle with spectacle. It's interested in the small decisions that build character when civilization falls away. The performances are the kind that quietly hold your attention. No big monologues, just steady work that makes you lean in. And yes, there are a few moments where the pacing drags, but honestly, that's almost part of the point. Silence is part of the atmosphere, and the film uses it. If you're in the mood for a post-apocalyptic story that treats its characters like real, messy humans instead of symbols, this one's for you. It asks less about the origins of the collapse and more about what comes after. Who do we become when polite society is gone? And somewhere between the ruin and the small kindnesses, it finds a strange kind of hope. I'd call it quietly devastating and ultimately a little generous. In other words, not a crowd pleaser in the blockbuster sense, but worth sticking with if you like your stories measured and human.